So, let's say your pastor has a sex scandal. But before we get to that, welcome to Lessons of Faith from Joshua. And this is episode 2, entitled Surprised by Grace. My name is Jason. I'm your moderator, and the guys I'm moderating will introduce themselves.
So let's say I want you to repeat your question. My name is Makawe Longa, and I'm glad to be here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dumolwenkosi Daniel Dua. I'm very happy to be here. Let's get to the lesson.
Now, before you answer Jason's question, my name is Mtabisi Tebe. Shall we pray? Our Father, who art in heaven, we'd like to thank you for the wonderful lesson that you have in store for us. As we are about to present this lesson, explore how this lesson can better benefit our lives. Be with us. Take care of us. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you for that. Today we're looking at Surprised by Grace, which, if I remember well, is the title of 2 books, but I can't remember the author's name. So the one author had a really long name. But we're not looking at that book. We're looking at the book of Joshua, and we're looking for lessons in grace from the book of Joshua. But before we get there, I promised you guys a surprise question. So this is a surprise question. A clergyman, whatever church you attend, a clergyman from your congregation was defrocked after a sex scandal. And now there's a move to bring him back to your congregation. And the only way to stop it is to vote no. And so now it's up to you. How do you vote? You don't have to tell us why. You just have to tell us how you vote. And bear in mind that your wife happens to look a lot like the woman he was caught with. How do you vote?
No.
No. That's surprised.
I'll vote yes.
You vote yes? Okay. How would you vote, Mta?
The jury is still out. How long ago was this?
You have to vote. You have to vote.
You know, when we personalize things, we want to keep our own things and drink from our own wells and not sharing. So, it's a no for me.
It's a no. So the
2 yeses and 2 no's.
I didn't vote. I'm not allowed to vote.
Okay.
Why I'm getting into this, why I ask this question is going to become obvious, I hope, as we discuss. Joshua 2 verse 1 says, "Now Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out 2 men from Acacia Grove," I'm reading from the New King James Version, "from Acacia Grove to spy secretly, saying, 'Go view the land, especially Jericho.'" Now this is, in Hebrew, Acacia Grove is Shittim. So this is deja vu for 2 reasons, okay? In Numbers 13 and 14, there's another spy story. Joshua himself was one of the spies sent out. And in Numbers 25, Numbers 25 verse 1, at a place called Shittim, there was a sex scandal. Okay, so this is deja vu. And both are stories of failure. But before we get to the failure, why did Joshua send spies to a land he knew God had promised and that he'd spied from as well? Had he grown skeptical in his old age?
Well, not skeptical, but strategic. Why I say so, it's because the fact that God has promised you something doesn't mean that you have to be passive. You still need to plan. So real faith includes planning, strategy, right? So this is a warfare, right? You can't just walk into war without coming up with a strategy. So he's sending spies so that they can actually come up with a better strategy on how to proceed going forward. So I wouldn't say it's skepticism, I would say it's being strategic as a leader.
I believe, adding on to what he's saying, that God gives us the ability, but he doesn't do the actual deed in and of itself. So God blesses you with the ability to make something happen, but you have to put yourself to the work, because that's how God works. Let's look at Adam and the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden was a perfect environment, but he still had to till the land. He still had to do some work to extract all the beauty or the functionality that place was supposed to bring in his life. So with everything that God puts in our lives, we have to do something. You cannot sit there and be passive and think, okay, pies are going to fall from the sky. You have to be active. Even if the manna falls from heaven, you still got to go and pick it up. Yeah. So there is some action on your part that you have to play.
Okay.
Yeah, and look, he's carrying out risk aversion. He's minimizing risk.
Yeah.
And how you minimize risk is you go and assess what the dangers. How can I avoid or mitigate any losses? This is in warfare.
Okay.
That is the same reason that when we lock our doors, we still check that I locked it well, even though I prayed that God take care of us during the night.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the same reason why we still pay insurance for our own church.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because people can break into a church. Surprising, it happened in my congregation about 2 or so years ago. And they made off with some stuff. But same thing with Joshua. Same thing with Daniel. They purpose in their heart that they will not eat of the king's food. And they still had to study for the Babylonian exams, even though they knew that they were the chosen of God.
Yes.
So it's not unusual what Joshua decided. And remember, Joshua is a new leader. Before that, he was the prime minister and Moses was the president. So he is in a new position where he wants to do things right and he doesn't want to be presumptive that God is going to have me do what was. And he knows what happened last time. He knows why Moses sent out spies.
Okay.
So he's going to pick up all the good lessons that he had from Moses and try and enhance it in his own way.
Okay.
And that is how you find that our parenting skills are like. We like stuff for what our parents did. Some things that we didn't like.
Yeah.
So we seemingly chuck away that and we carry that from our uncles and we make our own style of leadership.
we grow.
So Joshua is growing into these shoes that he's been left with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, if he was skeptical, he wasn't going to send spies.
Okay.
Why? Because this guy had been one of the spies 40 years earlier.
Yeah.
And he knew the effects of fear-based reports.
Okay.
So if he was skeptical, he wasn't going to send spies because they were going to bring back another fear-based report, which was going to stop them from getting into Canaan.
Okay.
So here it's clearly not skepticism, right? But he understands that, like what James 2 verse 17 says, right? Is it verse 17? Yes, verse 17. Let me read it here. Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So Joshua understood that divine promises require human cooperation.
Exactly.
Right. So as a human, you need to do your part
Exactly.
towards the goal of the fulfillment of divine promises.
Okay, so James says faith, he doesn't say faith without works is in the ICU. He's not saying saying if faith without works is in the morgue, isn't it?
No.
Actually, what he's saying is there is no such thing as faith without works.
Yeah.
So if you're not working, you have no faith.
You have no faith.
Now that's incredible, because I think if you visit any church congregation, some have said even if you visit any married couple, there's 2 kinds of people.
Yeah.
There's the one with the head up in the clouds, and there's the one whose feet are stuck on the ground, and you need a balance. Quite often when we talk about plans, when the church is making plans, or sometimes in a sermon, it'll come out that all you need is faith. God is going to work everything out. And as Mta brought up in his example, and I'm going to use it going forward, I want to ask some of those people to, okay, so you don't do anything because you have faith. You don't worry about anything. Do you lock your doors at night? Does your house have locks, burglar bars, and an alarm? And hope he says yes. Because if he says no, then that could get a little sticky. For sure. So we need both groups of people at church. And I think within Christian circles, to borrow one of Mac's favorite phrases within Christian circles, I think there's this idea that comes out that says people who want to carry out due diligence are not
faithless.
Not really that strong.
They don't
in the
believe.
faith. Yeah.
I think the problem is when it comes to faith-based things, we try to attach certain other elements of like the workplace and other things. So the problem is always a relationship problem with God. If you have a relationship with God, it's easy for you to deduce next steps. Okay. Let's look at David, King David, when he was assembling the people that were going to be on his side. He had a tribe of Issachar that he brought to his side, who knew the times, who knew what to do, who knew how to plan for the future. So even Israel in the old age needed people that were good at planning, who had foresight, who could see what could come and would be prepared should things go this way or that way. Yeah. So even with us in the modern day, we should never be caught unaware by certain situations. It's very not good for a Christian to be caught unaware and you're like, I don't know what to do, and you freeze. You should know what can happen at any given point in time, and when that does come your way, you should already have an idea of how you approach that problem or situation.
Oh, okay, thank you. But I mean, why are they conquering the land anyway? I mean, God could have just clicked his fingers and turned the Canaanites into quantum soup and gotten done with them. Why do they have to go and conquer? Because God says, I've given you the land, take it over. And then they have to conquer it.
You see, God is always wants us to be participating in this salvation aspect, and it's no different for them. I mean, when he promises us that he will be with us until the end of time, God could simply go and fix everyone and we'll be ready, but he wants us to go out there and make disciples for him. Yeah. They need to have a participative element in it. And I feel that if you don't earn your money and you are just given, how you spend it is very reckless. But if you earn every cent that you have, one of my best purchases was a winter coat that I got for $30. I paid a deposit of like maybe $2.50, and I had to pay for it within a month. If I paid within the month, I ended up paying about $27. Okay. It was one of the best purchases because I negotiated a deal. I got a bit of credit, and I cherished that coat.
I can hear the accountant.
I walked into that shop and like, maybe they'll think I stole this $30 coat and I paid only $2.50. But yeah, I appreciate it because I was still a student at the time, and I really wanted a winter coat. So unlike when you now have everything or you're given everything, you don't cherish it that much. Okay. You know? So Jesus, in the Godhead rather, decides that for them to appreciate what they have, they need to have a part in it. We'll give them assurance that they do have it, but all the strategy and what, it's now up to them and how they do it so that they appreciate what they are getting.
But you have an interesting choice of verbs, Mta, because if I earn it, is it grace?
Yeah.
Yes, it is great.
Please explain. Okay.
He is giving you that. Okay. And so you have to have the faith that he has given me. But like I said, it's participative.
Okay. But are you earning or?
Well, in our definition,
that's the question.
Definition of grace is unmerited favor.
Yes.
Okay.
You have done nothing to earn it.
Exactly.
Right. So why did they have to conquer now? Okay. It's because grace does not absolve you of your responsibility.
Okay.
Right. If I give you a gift, Jason, and say I've given you a check for $5,000 US.
Okay.
Right. You need to go to the bank to cash it in.
Okay.
You need to take part so that you cash it in. Right. There is something that you need to do. Or even if I say, Jason, I have a gift for you. The gift that I've given you is in South Africa, right? You need to take a bus, or you love taking the flight because you hate that, right? So you need to take a flight and go to South Africa to actually redeem the gift.
This guy is spreading my secrets.
Right? So you know gift vouchers. We know of gift vouchers, right? When you're given a gift voucher, you need to go and actually redeem it. So you wake up, dress up, bath. Even if you hate bathing. So you need to do something that you have to do so that you go ahead and and get it. So grace does not absolve you of your responsibility. So they had to conquer to acquire, right? to get what God had given them. They had a part that they had to play.
And another element to that, Matthew chapter 5 verse 16 says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Amen. Part of this whole thing is the fact that God has placed us in positions of influence. So there are people that are watching. So as the Israelites were conquering and doing the actions that God had said they should do, there were a lot of people that were being converted to the faith because they were seeing God working through the Israelites. So they should always be at the back of your mind an element of, I'm an ambassador for Christ. So sometimes God will ask of you actions that you may not think are necessary, but for the people that are watching, it would be great for you to do that because it will show them that God is indeed working in your life.
Okay.
It's evidence-based.
And let's take it to the issue of salvation.
Yeah.
Salvation is free and has been offered to everyone.
That's right.
But Paul puts it in terms that shows that there is a conquering that you need to do. He says that that which I want to do, I cannot do.
Yeah.
And that which I do not want to do, I do.
That is-
It seems like there's a battle going on in his mind. It's a battle, it's a fight. And yes, salvation has been given, but I have a part that I have to do to conquer the things that go against the fleshly lusts, everything that comes. So I can't say I've earned salvation, so I'll go ahead and be reckless and irresponsible. When Jesus comes, I'll go to heaven anyway because he has given me the gift of salvation, right? Even if he has granted you the gift of salvation, you need to undo certain habits. You need to work so hard. The Bible actually says, work your salvation with fear and trembling. But remembering that it is not your works. That's where the I don't know, can I say the dilemma is, where it's not your works. For Christ lives in me. It is no longer I that lives, but Christ lives. So you are dead to sin and Christ is alive. And whatever works you do them empowered by the grace of God.
Exactly.
So grace creates the space and gives you the fuel, but you still have to drive.
Yes, you must drive.
So the thing about God giving us grace is about Him. It's the act of fighting to gain the land. Also improves you as a person.
Yes.
For sure.
I mean, when we do evangelistic meetings, it involves speaking to someone. And you can't go to speak to someone without researching. You will say, okay, today we'll be doing maybe a Bible study on creation. You don't just go there unarmed. You go, you do your research. Where do we start from? Where do this? And you find that it's very beneficial. There's always something that you discover from the Bible. You've been reading the Bible all your life, but there'll be something new that you discover every day, every month, every year. And some truths are enhanced. Like each time we get to talk about the creation Sabbath. I think creation is one of the things that helps me believe that there is a God. Because there is no way, absolutely no way, that all this could be happen by chance. So you find yourself, you study, and then you impart what you have learned. And both of you are now learning. He or she is going to pose questions to you that help you think, and then you refer to the Bible. And both of you are learning.
Thank you. No, I'd entitled this section "Second Generation Faith." Because what we've been doing here is unpacking why God brings people back to where they failed. It's deja vu. Spy story, we failed. Shittim, we failed. Well, our ancestors failed. This is a new generation that's come up. And now they have to go forward from the place where their ancestors failed. And the question I'd have for you guys is, what would you say to that clergyman's son, the one from the first question, who's tempted to lose his faith because of the scandal? In my time, I've known guys whose fathers were clergymen who've had scandals over the years, and some even haven't had scandals. But I've noticed that they've struggled to stay in the faith. There's something about, the people whom we think are heroes when we look at them from a distance, but those who live with them know they're not heroes, and they sometimes struggle to hang on to the faith. So what would you say to that clergyman's son? Dumo and Ntayo voted no. we're not bringing your dad back. And then his son says, I understand why you didn't bring my dad back. In fact, I'm thinking of leaving the faith too. What would you say?
You see, the thing is that we always forget that the person who got the calling is not the son.
Okay.
It's the father.
Okay.
Both should be treated very, very independently. And there's a certain pressure that comes to being the son of a clergyman,
Okay.
let alone an elder or something. So there's certain expectations of them that they already have, whether they like it or not. You're a pastor's child, you should behave like this. No, he's just a child.
Okay.
So in approaching such a person, you have to help him understand that the decision is not meant to hurt you, but to help your father.
Okay.
Okay. It's just an expression of the displeasure of maybe a past act,
Okay.
which is quite independent from that child, but that child needs to learn that he is very independent, and rejecting his father is not rejecting him.
Okay.
But he has to sit down and evaluate his own relationship with God.
And he's doubting, Ta, because he's saying to you, my mentor, the one I looked up to in these things, failed.
Yes,
So what's the
often
point?
than not, our fathers are the next nearest thing to someone who's a superhero, but we need to break those barriers and saying, now that you're no longer a 5-year-old, you need to realize that even your dad is not the role model that he should be.
Okay.
The role model should be Christ himself. Because your father has to rely on Christ, as should you.
Okay.
If anything, you should be evaluating your relationship with Christ and seeing where you stand with Christ, because your father does not save you.
Okay.
Your father did not die for you. You may have played a part in creation of you, but he's not the actual creator, but Jesus Christ himself. So that's where you need to show him that.
Okay.
That's the way I think that's how I would approach it.
So you can't hotspot grace for long.
No, you can't.
Signal yakuje.
Yeah. What I would probably say to the young man is you must learn to differentiate or separate between his father's mistakes
Okay.
and his father's faith.
Okay.
And that takes wisdom to be able to differentiate or separate the two. Right? The fact that your father made a mistake does not mean that your father's faith is faulty.
Okay.
What he believes in is okay, is true, but he's human, he makes mistakes.
Okay.
Right? So the best thing that the young man can do is to learn from the father's mistakes and carry on the father's faith, but discard the mistakes. So if he learns lessons from the father's mistakes, he will be able to then have a faith that is better than the father, in that he has learned the lessons from his father's mistakes, and therefore his faith will be much better, because the father's faith is pure.
Okay.
Faith in Jesus Christ, that's what we live for, right? So carry on your father's faith, but remember to always learn from his mistakes so that you don't fall into the same pit as well.
And one good example of that is a young king, 2 Chronicles chapter 33 and chapter 34, young King Josiah.
Okay.
So this is what happens to Josiah. His father is King Amnon, and this guy was evil. You know, he was not good at all. And the Bible actually says his servants conspired and they assassinated him
After
in
2
his
years.
own house. Yes. And this young man called Josiah is 8 years of age when his father is assassinated. He's made king. He's not safe because the people that hated his father are still there in the house, of course, or lurking somewhere. Some of them were put to death, but I know that the elements of we can assassinate you, we can get to you, were still there. But guess what happens to Josiah? The Bible says from chapter 34 going down, it says that Josiah decided to seek of the Lord for himself. And then he was able to forge his own path. And the Bible says he was a good king, right? And that is because he decided to seek of the Lord and shape his own path. So the young man must know that his father's choices do not define his path in life. Each man must forge their own way forward. Grace is God allowing you to not be defined by people who are surrounding your circle. You understand? Isaiah made a call to God and he says, God, I live in a community of people that are dirty. Right? But I do want you to send me. You understand? And so God says, okay, so I'm going to purify you. I'm going to cleanse you even in that situation. So grace is God saying you cannot be You can be free of the influence of your circumstance and grow to be the person that you set out to be, should you choose to commit to me and have a relationship with me.
Okay, thank you. So in essence, what we're saying to that boy is, whatever your dad did or didn't do, he was just the beginner class. You have to move on. Whatever, even if he hadn't had the scandal, you still have to graduate and get to know God for yourself. Grace comes to each of us as individuals.
Exactly.
At some point, we must realize that certain things that are broken, it's our responsibility to repair them.
Okay.
Right. So whatever the father did, we always talk about generational curses and what. Sometimes it's your part to play to repair that or undo that which is in the past. So ask yourself: are you rejecting something? Are you rejecting something because it's broken, or you are rejecting it because you have failed to repay it?
Okay.
Most of the time, we reject because we have failed to repay. So I think we need to take up the responsibility and repair that which is broken.
I think our generation needs to hear that the most, because at some point we need to realize that we've become the background now. Always complaining. I know some people who their parents now, they're in their mid-30s, but they're going to post pictures of themselves at Groove. Now, I'm not going to say whether or not you should go to Groove, but honestly, if you're in your mid-30s and you're posting videos and pictures of yourself, I mean, you're competing with teenagers, there's a problem. I know that's a violent thing to say, but I'm saying that. Moving on with more violence. The next section is 007 Rahab story.
Why 007?
Because it's a spy story.
Is this bonded with?
It's a spy story.
Okay.
It's a spy story. And now they say spying is the world's second oldest religion. So, profession. And so these guys who are in, these two guys who are in the world's second oldest profession meet a woman who's in the world's oldest profession. Her name is Rahab. And she hides them when the king's agents come looking, the counterintelligence comes looking for them, and she hides them, and then she tells them a lie. Says, those guys, they were here, but they went that way. If you hurry, you'll catch them. And the counterintelligence leaves in a hurry to catch them. And then she makes a confession. I want to read it. Joshua 2. Verse 8 to 11. I'm reading from the New King James Version. It says, now before they lay down, she came up to them on the roof and said to the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, that the terror of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land are faint-hearted because of you. Man, that's a bold thing to say. For an idolatrous woman to say something like that, that's an about turn. But she continues. She says, for we have heard how the Lord dried up the water out of the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the two kings of the Amorites who were on the other side of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts melted. Neither did there remain any more courage in anyone because of you. For the Lord your God, and this is incredible for her to say, He is God in heaven above and on earth beneath. And then she makes a request. In the next two verses, she says, now therefore I beg you, swear to me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness, that you also will show kindness to my father's house, and give me a true token, and spare my father, my mother, my brothers, my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. Woo!
That's great.
Now Hebrews 11:31 says she's a hero. But why does it include her even though she lied? I thought lying was a sin. Does God's grace suspend His law?
Is it subjective?
Does he have to switch off His law to be gracious to us, or ignore it for a bit and then?
No, this is a very good question, and very difficult as well. I remember when we were reading in the previous quarter when it says God remembered the Israelites. God remembered what the promises He had made to Abraham. To who? To his son Jacob, Isaac and Jacob. And I'm thinking, God is remembering sinful people like you and I. Abraham, who's this? This is my sister. God has called you out of the Chaldees, sends you to this place, then you go to Egypt, and then you say this is my sister, fully knowing he was.
Oh, she was.
Yeah,
She was.
But he still counts and says, I am the God of Abraham. What did Jacob do? His mom conspired. But who's to say that God was not going to take care of Rahab if she had not lied? Just like Jacob was already chosen. It says as two fighting nations, Jacob and Esau.
Okay.
The younger shall serve the older. So the prophecy was already there. Rebecca didn't need to trick her husband.
Yeah.
But it so happened. But
I don't think it was the first time she did that, by the way. Just as an aside. Rebecca.
Of course.
Because the confidence, I prepared like that.
Yeah.
It was probably not the first time he'd eaten his own goat.
But if we look at Rahab, I think maybe for us to be clear, Hebrews 11 does not commend her for her lie.
Okay.
But for her faith.
But for her faith.
Yes.
Yes.
And what was the faith? She chose to align herself with God.
Okay.
Right? So here she's being commended for her choice to align with God more than her ethics.
Okay.
And anyway, if we're to talk about her ethics, remember she's an idolatrous woman.
Yeah.
She's a prostitute. She lives in a heathen nation. Right? So God is coming to meet her at her point.
She'd never
where
got
she
beyond
is.
the verse.
Right. Yeah. She never got beyond the verse. Right. God is meeting her where she is.
Where she is, yeah.
Right. Maybe to her in her situation, lying was okay.
Okay. Yeah.
But what we need to notice about God values direction over perfection.
Yes.
She's stumbling in the right direction within her context.
Yes.
So I think we make a mistake to think that people have to be perfect for them to be aligned with God.
With God.
Right? This is someone who's been, what do you call those people who eat other people?
Cannibals.
Cannibal. So this is a person who's been a cannibal and they have repented and they have come to your church. And and you're now having potluck and they decide to eat chicken. And there you are saying, this person is sinning, they're eating chicken, they must not be eating any flesh foods, they must be eating vegetables. But look at where this person is coming from. From eating people to eating chicken.
I mean, the way you have also vegetarian here.
So this person is going in the right direction. So I think God looks at values direction over perfection, not to be misconstrued to say that I'm saying that sinning is okay. But I'm just saying that let's look at it in the bigger picture. Right? She's being commended for her faith, not for her lie.
So there's nobody who's so deep in sin that grace can't reach.
Yes.
And we have to understand that we have to look at the entire. We have to look at people as entire beings and look at their entire lives and see.
Not just to look at points.
Where was the starting point?
Yes.
Okay, this was the starting point that this person came this far. For her to say, the Lord your God is God in heaven and on earth. That is remarkable.
That is remarkable. Where she's coming from.
There were people in Israel who weren't so sure about that.
And I think that's where the power of this whole story is. Number one, the contents of her monologue to those men shows what's really in her heart. And number two, the lie really affirms something that we already know in the Bible, that human nature is human nature, right? And I think at times we believe that because we have faith, because we believe in God, that means that the laws of human nature don't apply to us. They actually do. It is possible for you right now to probably stretch the truth in attempts to maybe make a point. Sometimes you can stretch the truth and you realize a bit later that, I probably added a few sentences of things that didn't really happen. And that is not to say that your aim is to be misleading, but that is the law, that is human nature. So that human nature must be brought into subjection of the bigger picture, which is an understanding of who God is, right? And when that happens, that's when we're saying that grace overwhelms our human nature and God can work with us even though we are prone to make mistakes. So we fall, and even though we fall, like a righteous man, what does the Bible say about a righteous man? You fall seven times, but they get back up every single time. So I think the problem is a lot of people. I met this other young lady this time. I was coming from church. She dropped off from a combi and she had a short skirt on. I knew where she was coming from. And this is around 12, just after church. She comes to me and my friend and she says, listen, Guy, I'm so tired of this life. Like, she just broke down crying. And mind you, I think I was very young at the time. I didn't know what to do, But I realized that there are people who are experiencing certain things, not because that is ideally who they are, but circumstances have caved them into that space. And it is our responsibility to remind them that that space is not what God created or designed for them. They can easily move out of that. So Rahab's plea is for God to take her out of a space of Jericho where she's used to lying, where she's used to promiscuity. And she's saying, I know that there's a better way, I haven't seen it for myself, but I do know there's a better way because God has done so many things for you and I want him to do them for me. So our lives should always be a testament to what God has done for us. I should be able to say that God took me from a space where I was a drinker, a heavy drinker, and he's put me in a space where I realized that that's not what should define me, or I cannot make excuses for that by saying life is hard and this and that. Those situations cannot cave us in and make us think that just because we're dealt a difficult hand means that we're supposed to live our lives according to the hand that we're dealt.
Thank you for that. So grace is not magic dust. Grace is not witchcraft that does instant things, and it just means there's work to be done. And as long as you commit yourself to doing that work, then you're a hero of faith. That's incredible.
Jason, if you
hope
look
for
at
everyone.
All the characters in Hebrews chapter 11.
Okay.
I'm struggling. I'm struggling to see how these people are even called heroes of faith after what they had done. But like we're seeing a God of second chances who sees where we are and sees the progress that we're making and still has the ability to believe in us. Your Abrahams, your Sarahs, they're not the perfect people, but here they are being counted as heroes of faith, just like Rahab is counted in the genealogy of the Savior. How cool is that? So if he can do that to Rahab, who had never been to church or had read, but she was seeing these things, saying, no man, this is extraordinary. There must be a God somewhere. And that was a moment of saying, look, this is God presenting himself. Let me do something. And he is coming to conquer this city. So let me make sure that I'm on the right side. And by getting assurances from the faith that she had, that these people will keep their word. War is really crazy. Bombs, you can have blue violence where you kill members of your own. So she had so much faith that whatever happens when they attack the city, they're going to be able to isolate my family and die and keep us safe. And that was the faith she had in these people, that they'll keep their word. So do people have that much faith in us when they confide in us that please help me with this particular problem?
And to add a quick caveat to this, I think I always think about life after Rahab's choice, because the Bible still clearly states that she was a prostitute. So her reputation did precede her, and probably the community that she lived in after that knew that this woman used to be a prostitute. And I do believe that one thing we need to learn is that the fact that God has allowed and extended his grace for us to change our lives doesn't necessarily mean that the reputation that we have in the public space will be perfect. So there are certain people that held an opinion of what a former prostitute should be, nothing of importance. But because she had made a choice to follow God, God counts her as someone who is noteworthy in the Bible because of her decision. So sometimes it's not that people will acknowledge that, right? Or give you validation for your choice to follow God. You might not get that validation from people when you turn your life around. People will still count you based on the mistakes or the life that you used to live, but it doesn't mean that God has not extended his grace for you to turn things around.
Okay, thank you for that. Now we don't have time to talk about why, if I was Joshua, I would have court-martialed those spies, because I sent them to spy. They didn't do much spying. They almost identified almost immediately. and they came back with hearsay from a woman whose testimony probably wouldn't stand up in court. But for me, that all says something about faith coming from the hearing of the word.
Yes.
That Rahab not only had a powerful confession about God, but she was able, it was so convincing that the two spies said, you know what, there's no need to keep spying. We can go back. Everybody's already scared. The country's ready for our taking.
Yeah.
Now,
Just a quick one on that.
Yeah.
The simple answer to that is faith recognizes faith.
Okay, okay.
They got in, they discovered that there's someone who believed in the word that God had told them. Because in verse 9 and going down, she says that I know that the Lord has given you this land, blah, blah, blah. Like,
that's all the confirmation.
the reputation of God has gone ahead of us. So that's all the confirmation we needed. They went back.
So here we find grace making friends out of people who were enemies.
Yes, because look at it this way. You've got one hand, the Gibeonites. You've got one hand and Rahab. Rahab heard, the Gibeonites heard. They more or less, the Rahab lied, and these ones tried to have a lie there. And then they wanted to be spared. So them trying to conquer was for them not to die. So they had to kill first. Rahab was like, no. I want to be spared, but I'll go the other way. They wanted deliverance. Both wanted deliverance. But the long-term status is that they were made servants and she was recognized for full citizenship. And they both lied.
Yeah, and I want to get to that because that's the next section. Okay, I called it surprised by disguise. Bouncing off surprised by grace. Anyways, that's from Joshua 9. Now in Joshua 9, this is after Joshua and the Israelites had kicked a lot of people in the teeth, and the Gibeonites realized that we're going down here, and they decided, let's disguise ourselves as people from a far country. They even had moldy bread. And I want to zoom in. Good props. I want to zoom in on verse 14. It says, the men of Israel took some of their provisions, but they did not ask counsel of the Lord. Now, a Bible nerd said that the literal translation of this is the Israelites tasted the bread with their mouths instead of asking of the mouth of the Lord. And Joshua decided to make peace with them without asking, even though Numbers 27 verse 21 said he should ask from God first. Okay. So, then he found out later on. This was after, that's the famous battle where, I can't remember. But anyway, he fought with with some people who attacked the Gibeonites. And he defeated them. So another great victory like Jericho came out of this lying stuff. But then when he found out, he made them servants or slaves. But before we get to the slavery part, was the Gibeonites' mistake that their lie wasn't meant to help Joshua's church like Rahab's?
Well, not entirely.
Okay.
Their lie was more of self-preservation, unlike Rahab's lie. Rahab confesses of the goodness of the Lord and everything.
A similar confession.
But if you read theirs, it sounded like more of self-preservation and not entirely rooted in faith in God. Right? They were more afraid of what Joshua would do to them more than the God of Joshua. I think from my reading, Rahab, even if she had died, she would have died at a point where she had believed in God. Unlike the Gibeonites, it seems like they planned this thing, even got to a point where they made ways to deceive. The stale bread, the old skins, wine skins. They actually perfected their art so much as to deceive so that they can be preserved, so that they won't die. So to me, I think the difference between them and Rahab is that for them, it was more of self-preservation, and for Rahab, it was just not just self-preservation, but she had faith in God, the God of the Israelites.
For me, what it reminds me of is the demons confess that you are the Christ. They confess that Jesus was, but they still remain demons doing demon things. So unlike a person who has faith, I believe you are the Christ, or I have little faith, help my unbelief. It's very different. It's very different. So for me, Rahab is one of the good guys who's confessing that I know you have the ability to save me.
Okay.
Whereas the Gibeonites with their deceptive ways, the Decepticons sort of like, from that very word.
Decepticons.
Not my handwriting.
Yes.
But from the very start, their aim is to deceive for self-preservation. Whereas Rahab is saying, yes, I do want my life preserved, but I want to be preserved by the God of God, who has confidence, because I now believe I've seen and heard with my own ears.
Okay.
So that's where the difference is.
Okay. So, but they still got salvation.
Yeah.
So grace can even reach you when your intentions are not clear.
Yes.
Sometimes some people come to church, wherever you attend church, and they're only there for the potluck afterwards. They've only just come for potluck. And some people would say, these are not really the sort of people we want around here. But here we see an example of people who came for the goodies, not really exemplary or not testimony worthy reasons for coming to over to God's side. But still there was space for them.
Yes, mercy.
There was. And what's amazing as well is that when Joshua discovers, he says, no, man, you deceived me from that. Therefore, I'll do what I was supposed to do.
Okay.
He still keeps his word. And that is very honorable, where it takes a lot to say, despite me having made a terrible decision, perhaps he realized that I was really rash and didn't consult God, so now I have to live with the consequences.
Yes.
And at times we find ourselves where we want to involve God after we've done the actions and now have to live with the actions or the obligations that we've created for ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, and there was some punishment, of course, involved, and that he didn't want to. I understand that he didn't want to set a precedent for people to think, we can lie, and if we
get away with it.
Get away with it.
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of
punishment. For
not punishment, I'll say.
Because they got off
but
lightly.
he upheld justice. I'll say justice because despite him honoring his end of the covenant, he upheld justice by assigning them the role. Yes. So that balance to say it's a lesson that you can't get away with lying, right? Let's uphold justice for.
And one thing I want us to understand is the consequences of our actions will never be equal amongst all of us. We may all commit one act, but the consequences of our actions will be very different. There are a lot of people in the Bible that burst out in anger, and God probably didn't do much. But look at what happens to Moses. Moses has an outburst of anger. After an almost 40-year period of doing the right thing, he just has an outburst, and God says, for that reason, you're not going to Canaan. Okay. So they are people that had the same outbursts of anger that probably God did not punish them with the same kind of punishment. And that comes to show that God deals with each individual very differently. And we cannot expect God to be a one-size-fits-all, So sometimes I may lie. I should never comfort myself by saying, I saw Makawe lying, and his punishment for his action doesn't seem that bad. If I do the exact same thing, it could very happen that the punishment that comes to me, not punishment, but the consequences of my action could be more catastrophic in nature and really wreak more havoc. And I'll be like, but why did it not happen to Makawe? It's because those situations are very, very different. So as individuals, I think we always have to guard ourselves and not think the idea that someone did something and got away with it means that we can do the exact same thing and expect the exact same consequences.
So God in His graciousness does not shield us from all the consequences of our nonsense.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So much for that. But what right do we have to test a believer's claims? Because I'm zooming back to the moldy bread part. And by the way, I forgot to say that verse 14 for me is somewhat funny because in my mind, I imagine the Israelites tasting moldy bread. It's just a funny picture in my head. So, and instead of, and it says that they didn't inquire of the mouth. In fact, it says they didn't test the claim. They didn't check, or there was no due diligence by asking God. What right? But do we really have a right to test someone's claim? If somebody says, "Look, I'm in this thing. I'm in with God, both feet in. Here's the moldy bread. Taste my moldy bread. I've come from far. And what right do we have? And how can we do that with? And if we have a right, how can we do that without coming off as cold?"
The Bible gives us that right.
Okay.
I was looking for this
too. Us that right?
I was looking for the verses, right? So 1 John chapter 4 verse 1 says, "Beloved," I'm reading from the New King James Version. "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits. Whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world." We're given the reason why we should test the spirit. And also Matthew chapter 7 verse 16 then says, "You will know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles?" So it seems like it's saying you will know them by their fruits. So what I would say in a nutshell is we are being told to test them by their fruits.
Exactly.
So we are not judging them. Right? We are just evaluating. It's not maybe the easiest way I can put it is we are asked to evaluate the fruits, not the heart.
And character.
Because we cannot tell the heart. It's only God knows. It's only God who knows the heart.
Exactly.
So I must not make a conclusion on someone to say he's like this in the heart because I don't know the person's motives. So all I can do is to evaluate the fruits and not the heart.
I to support that, my favorite verse that talks about fruits is Matthew chapter 3 verse 8, and John the Baptist is giving a great address before people get baptized. He's doing this mass baptism, but he's talking to the people and he's trying to make them aware of what it means to make a commitment to God, because they're saying we believe in this, right? This is what he says. I'm going to read this from the Voice Bible because it just puts something there that makes me very happy. This is what it says. It says, "If you think that simply hopping in the Jordan will cleanse you, then you're sorely mistaken. Your life must bear the fruit of turning towards righteousness." So the Bible is kind of saying that, listen, there are claims that we can make, there are assumptions we can make. We can be like, okay, so the very fact that I talked to the Israelites, I did this, I did that, it means that I'm okay. But God is saying, no, the expectation is that not only should the motive be right, but it should be accompanied by actions that prove that you really believe what you're saying. You understand? So there should be affirmative action always in whatever that we do. So most of us, the problem is we think that jumping into the Jordan is quite simply enough. You do one good thing for one day and you think that makes you right forever. The fact that you made one good decision in your life, Makau, and you said, okay, I'm not gonna, let's just say your choice is not to eat pork. You think that not eating pork automatically means that everything else that you do is not counted as something important. So that's where we need to turn our minds around and say, we have to be all right on all aspects of growth, not just the ones that are publicly visible.
And Jason asked, I think there's something you mentioned that triggered me to say this. Jason asked, how can we do this without coming off as cold, right? Besides doing it with humility and all the other things that you mentioned, I think testing should sound like encouragement and not interrogation. There's a question that you asked when we started to say, would you restore this pastor or who has done this stuff? And Galatians
when your wife looks like the mistress he had.
And so still Galatians chapter 6 verse 1 then says, brethren, if a man is overtaken in any trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted.
For sure.
The reason why I said yes is because I understand that this guy did a sin that I am capable of doing so as well. So how would I want them to treat me if I'm in the same situation?
Yes.
So we should restore this one with gentleness, understanding that whatever testing we do, like I said, we are testing this person and it should come off as encouragement. I always see in disciplinary committees in various churches where disciplinary committee looks like it's their opportunity to revenge. You know, it's like a fight.
They're finally sending him to hell.
They're finally sending him to hell, right? But a disciplinary action must be such that it's restorative, it's encouraging, rehabilitate, not to cast someone away.
So should we test God's claims as well? Because the reason we all got into this mess is way back in Genesis, God said, if you do this, you live. And then somebody else said, God, who needs that guy? So God is already operating under suspicion. Is it good for Christians to test God's claims as well as we go out?
Isaiah 1:18, come now, let us reason together, says the Lord.
Yes.
He invites us to question him, to sit down with him and test his claims and debate.
The very action of inquiring of the Lord is testing whether or not what is in front of you is what it actually is. So when the Israelites did not inquire of the Lord, they made a decision without all the facts. So testing God is acquiring all the facts and making a decision with full knowledge of what is in front of you.
Yeah, even in Malachi it says, try me and see if I will not open the windows of heaven. So trying is testing. And in Matthew chapter 28 verse 20, he encourages us to go ye and baptize all nations, teaching them to obey. Teaching and making disciples involves training and inquiring if this person is, because most of the time we rush to baptize people and we don't go into in depth to find out they understood what decision they're making. It's not the point to just have the numbers, but make sure you understand what you're getting into, what is expected of you, because 9 out of 10 you'll find them all breaking the very same commandment that they've said that they will uphold. But because they didn't fully understand its implications. So you have to test them for their own benefit, not for you, for their benefit, so that they know, because when they fall and then they're disciplined, it could be the way out, how we chuck them out. So we need to be really careful about how we treat these new believers and the teenagers, or this generation that always gives us a headache.
And in one line, we test God to seek the truth, not to validate our doubts.
Exactly.
Thank you for that. So grace is not a cover-up. Grace is transparent. Grace doesn't pull wool over our eyes. It's not to make us dumber, it's to make us sharper. And so that's why we can trust God.
Amen.
We'll ask Dumo to give us a closing prayer.
Okay, let us pray. Father in heaven, we are grateful for this opportunity, for this moment that you've given us. The word is so clear. The word is giving us lessons. May these lessons seep into our hearts. May we try them out. And when we try them out, may you meet us halfway. Show us that it is not in vain that we try to serve you. And when all is said and done, what we're praying for is that everything that we say, everything that we have done may have not been in vain, but our names are there in the Lamb's Book of Life. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen.
Amen.